Hello and welcome in today's exciting episode. I take this beige greyish fabric with bugs and birds on it and I make a 1950s dress. It's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect jacket. So here we have the Simplicity vintage sewing pattern that I'll be using. It's S8980 and I'm making the one in the whitey greyish one in the background there. I do like this brown one and I think I will make it again as some other time. It's sort of got inserts in the neckline and at the cuffs, the arms. It's just like a second color and it's also got a bow, but with this fabric I'm just going to make the sort of plainer of the two dresses for now. And I thought this was going to be relatively quick and simple, but yeah, it was not. It took me at least as long as it takes to make a modern day dress. But anyway, let us begin. So this is me trying to open out the instructions with one hand while holding the camera with the other. Just put the camera down. Anyway, these are the pieces, pattern pieces 1 to 11 are for the dresses and all the other pieces are for the coat and the jacket. So I'm making, as I said, I'm making dress A, and you're supposed to do it with a facing for the collar and a facing around the neck and a facing around the sleeves. And I just want it fully lined instead. So yeah, that does alter the pieces that I cut out. Essentially, I'm just cutting out. Oh, and I did want to just use the birds and bugs fabric, but because of the shape of the pattern pieces, you can see, you can't really tell here, but it really kicks out at the bottom and it kicks out at the sleeves as well. So you can't cut out two from selvage to selvage. You can only fit one of either your front or your back, and I didn't have lengthwise, I didn't have enough for either one. So I did the front in the birds and bugs and the back in the beige and blue flowers. So I do have enough left over of the beige and blue because that was the wider width, that fabric. So I do have enough left over of that to do maybe a really, really short jacket, like a bolero with really short sleeves. But anyway, I'll talk about that later. So first of all, I cut out the front and I cut out the back. And and then I marked all the darts. There's 6 darts on the front, 4 going up and down, like on your stomach, and then 2 at the bust, like 1 each side of the bust, and then on the back there's just the 4 long darts as well. So and they're sort of those tricky darts that go out in the middle and then in again at the bottom. So yeah, it took me ages so I marked them on and then I drew them on, and then I do the method where you pin through each side of the dart to get them exactly centered, and then you sort of pinch it so that the pins are holding them together, and it sort of draws the fabric into the right spot. And then, I did the 4 long ones plus the 2 bust darts on the front, and then the 4 long ones on the back. And I also did the 2 lining bits as well, the front lining and the back lining. So it took me forever. Here you can see I carefully turned it over while it was still just pinned, just to check that the pattern, with darts, it always eats up some fabric, and when it's a print, of course, it's going to be tricky. So yeah, I turned it over and just checked it. And now I'm doing the back, and I'm using the same method. See, I pin one side of the dart and then pin through the other, and then once they're all done, you sort of pinch it and gather it up, and that way all your points are perfectly aligned. and then I sewed them and turned it out and checked, and yeah, it's looking pretty good. I mean, I'm not going to unpick it. So yeah, I did the front, the back, and then the lining front, and then the lining back, and I was so over darts. Oh my goodness. But then yeah, I just checked with the instructions, and you have to iron them. So the next thing is to press it. So I had to press the vertical darts inwards into the middle, and the bust darts had to go up. So I pressed them all in the correct directions, and yeah, that took an age as well because I had to do 4 whole things. As I said, this just took forever. Then if you're just putting facing in, not a full lining, then the next thing you do is put you have to stay stitch the neck and all the areas where you have to stay stitch, and yeah, and you have to put that neck facing in, but I wasn't doing that. I'm doing a full lining, as you can see. So I stitched my outer front and outer back together, then I stitched my lining front and my lining back together, still keeping the 2 layers of the dress separate. And the bottom is a little bit tricky. It's got a vent, which is basically a little hidden pleat bit beside each knee so that you can walk properly, but it still keeps its nice line. I suppose if you didn't want vents, it's like a pleat. You know how you have a pleat at the back of the skirt? Well, instead of that, it has 2 at the sides. And yeah, so then so I sewed them in the correct way, and then you just sort of cut the corner so that it sits properly. And then the next step is to add a zip, but I don't have the right color zip. So also I'm a little bit lazy. So I'll add the zip later. The instructions are for you to add the zip by sewing it in, and I put mine in by hand, not by machine. So I'll do it later. I'll go and buy a proper color zip in the right length, and I'll do that later. So the next step is to put on the sleeve cuffs, and even though I'm lining it, I'm going to put the sleeve cuffs on. They're called facing, but it sits outside, so it's really a cuff. So yeah, I just sewed them on the actual outer fabric, outer dress, and not on the lining. I'll once I attach the lining, I'll finish it, but for now I just sewed it on. And so I pinned it and then sewed them on. And then the next step before you can attach the outer dress to the lining is that you have to do an internal belt, or a waist stay, it's called on this pattern. And what you're supposed to do is get a length of grosgrain ribbon or grosgrain ribbon, however you prefer to say it, and you basically do a belt inside the dress to carry the weight so that the zip doesn't break at the pressure point of your waist. So yeah, you just have to sew this on, but because there is no waistline on this dress, you actually just have to tack it on, hand sew it to the back of the darts, like the extra fabric on the darts. So you have to go around and do a couple of stitches on each one. So you're not really, it doesn't need to be really firmly attached. All you're doing is making a belt on the inside that has to be hooked closed, and the few stitches you put on it sort of just keep it in space in the right area of the dress. Anyway, you have to do that before you do the lining so that it's in between the outer dress and the lining. So I did that, and then the next step was to pin the necklines together. The lining and the outer dress, and then you sew them, and then you clip the curves so it sits nicely when you turn it out. Then you turn it out and you have to understitch that so that you can't see it, but that the lining always sits properly. And then you have to do the sleeves, like the hem, the cuffs on the inside, and you also have to hem the bottom of the dress. And there we go. It is done. But yeah, obviously I still haven't done the zip. Shh, don't tell anyone. But there we go, there's the dress. And it's, yeah, I suppose a beige dress isn't terribly exciting to anyone, but I really love this dress. It is so, I bought this fabric, gosh, I think at the end of, not like over a year ago. So, yeah, I'm so glad I finally got to use it. It was just, it's a quilting fabric, and I was actually looking for this fabric. This is the back. I really quite like that fabric. And it's just these gigantic flowers, sort of. But, yeah, and I'm so glad I've got enough fabric. I think I will be able to get a really, really cropped jacket with short sleeves out of it. And, yeah, that would be awesome. But yeah, I was actually looking for this other brightly coloured bug fabric. So I was going through all the clearance sections of various quilt stores, and I came across this bug one, which is beige. And I know a lot of people hate beige, but I really like it. So, and it's got birds as well as bugs and cockroaches. It's hilarious. But because it's so beige, you can't really tell that it's all these critters. It just looks like this boring dress. But up close, it's quite funny. So, yeah, I'm really happy with it. And I love this style of dress. It's very, yeah, I guess it's conservative. But, yeah, and that's the fabric. So, yeah, sort of like, I'm going to make it a really cropped jacket, sort of like the gingerbread one, but without the puffy sleeves. There's not enough fabric for puffy sleeves. And I do have a little bit of leftover fabric of the bug fabric, so I might make a belt or a sash out of it. I wouldn't wear it with this dress necessarily, but yeah. And I think I've got this fabric. It's rayon, flax and linen sort of blend, and I think I'll make another dress out of that because I think that will fall. It has beautiful drape, like it's heavier than you would think, so it has a really nice drape. So I think I might make that out of it. And I might make the jacket version of, you know how it's got a coat and a jacket. I might make the jacket one out of this lint and tweed. It's pale blue with silver, and yeah, I think I've got about 2 meters of that blue one, so which would be enough to do the jacket, I think. So I might do that just to give me a break from the normal Chanel style jackets. But yeah, there we go. I cannot tell you how long this took because of lining up all the darts. Like that, those ruby dresses that I've been making a million of, they don't take anywhere near as long as this beige dress did. But yeah, modern dresses are sort of much quicker to make, in my opinion. But yeah, it's totally worth making though. And there I put a sash on it and I absolutely love it like that. I think, yeah, it's really pretty. It's so understated, whereas the ruby dresses are very in your face and very obvious. So I like it because it's so subtle and, you know, understated. I love understated things, but obviously I also like things that are totally over the top and fabulous, like that green dress. I absolutely love that one too. But yeah, it's good because you don't always feel like wearing the exact same thing, so it's nice to have a range of different dresses to play dress ups in. Anyway, thank you for watching this episode where I made this vintage dress. I definitely recommend this vintage pattern, Simplicity 8980. It is, the darts do take a while. But yeah, I definitely think it's worth it. It is a beautiful dress that I am going to have, yeah, in my wardrobe literally for the rest of my life. So yeah, well worth the effort. It's a beautiful silhouette and a gorgeous, comfortable, chic dress.